Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AskPiesNation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. My name is Nicholas Sacco, your host again for this week's episode. It's episode 2 of season 6, or episode 148. If you're counting from the beginning, our return to the studio comes ahead of our first match of the 2024 season, and we can't wait to get stuck into the year. And yes, that means we're all in, boys, on round 0 this weekend. Today, today, as well as discussing all things GWS, we'll give you our review of that Pies Premiership documentary that came out last week. We discussed the Richmond practice match from last Tuesday night and all the positive signs that come out of that. And of course, Ask Pies Nation is here. We get you, the fans, to tell us your pre-season predictions ahead of our quest for back-to-back flags. And as I mentioned, we're back in the studio. We're all very excited by that one. And this means I get to see the lovely faces of Luke Humphries and Marcus Callahan. Boys, welcome back.
Nico, Lukey, great to be back in Collingwood for another season of Collingwood and ecstatic to get going on the new season. But round 0 just not quite doing it for me, Lukey. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the matter, but I reckon we could just get straight to round 1.
Oh yeah, it's going to take a bit to get, I guess, up and about for it this week. It still feels like, I guess, a practice match to an extent, but I think once we get to sort of Thursday, and teams come out, and footy obviously starts on Thursday night as well with the Sydney Melbourne game, it will start to feel a bit real. But I think it's just the fact that if we were going, it might feel a bit different. But I don't know. You got to play your opening game at the MCG.
Is it for points?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've generally been asked that, and I said that last week. It's crazy. I think it'll definitely be the last time it happens.
Well, I was going to say, as someone that grew up in Sydney, do you think they're going to take well to this round 0 concept?
I don't know. I think I know the idea behind trying to push the game everywhere is fantastic, but I don't know. It's Melbourne. You play your round 1 at the MCG. That's where you get 80, 90,000. I don't know. And for us to have the flag unfurling as well off the back of the Premiership, it would just be nice to have that. Start off at the G, but yeah, we'll get that next week for round 1, I guess.
I heard we're playing in Vegas next year. Don't know if you heard, boys.
That's an idea. That is actually.
You'd rather play in Vegas than Sydney?
Yes. That was good yesterday watching the rugby league. I don't know if you're across that, Marcus, but
No.
the NRL had their opening 2 games of the year in Vegas. So a bit innovative. I think they've signed a 5-year contract for that as well. So
And the players have all come home alive? Is that...
they're still over there, I think.
Yeah.
Few of them.
whiz.
There's been some
Up
controversies.
and about.
But
for
yeah,
sure.
the NRL's always got a few
I reckon
controversies.
Swanee
going on.
might come out of retirement if that happens.
Oh, absolutely. We must also say a very great welcome back to Derek, our producer, who's hoping the Saints can have another big year.
Good win yesterday.
Well, hopefully Jimmy Webster's okay. He said, not really, because that was a pretty serious hit, and he should definitely serve whatever's coming his
Just
way.
quickly, how many weeks would you give that?
Oh, that's at least 8. It's a disgraceful hit,
Yeah, I
really.
said 6 minimum, but yeah, 6 to 8 where it's
Early
gonna-
play might not even save him. He's,
No.
it's-
That's he's already sitting at the tribunal, I reckon, waiting for the verdict, because
It's
that.
just- One, it's a practice game. I
Yeah.
know you want to play at pretty high intensity, but he's done everything wrong outside of that, on top of it just being a practice game. So, yeah.
Well, let's get straight into pies. We'll leave the Saints till later, Derek. Don't worry. But as I just said, it was great to see your faces now, but I also got to see your faces on Friday night when we made our way to Hoyt Cinemas to watch the Collingwood Premiership documentary, Take the Steps. A fantastic production made by all the Collingwood media team, and it certainly lived up to the hype. I know a lot of fans were waiting for this from the moment we won the flag, and it was a big build-up. All the trailers were coming through, and we were just getting everything ready for what was to come, and it delivered tenfold. I think it was a fantastic production. We had a cinema that was full of laughs, full of tears. We had the entire roller coaster. You almost didn't know what was going to happen in that last quarter of the grand final, even though we're well aware of what took place. But from a personal point of view, it was spine-tingling, to say the least. And I just think it was a great reflection of what was an unforgettable season. So really pleased to have a production like that we can look back on, as well as the actual game itself, and really enjoy what was to come. And it was a fitting way to conclude the Premiership celebrations, I think, from last year.
Yeah, how long have we got? We probably just do a podcast on the doco. When saw it twice once with
You
you.
saw it again?
That's how good
I
it
saw
Oh,
it the
you
was.
night
saw it
before.
before. All
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
yeah. I took myself out and just indulged, Lukey. And I think it's one of those ones, as we were saying, like a good movie. You can
Mm,
go and watch it
mm.
twice, no worries. And so to celebrate that with you guys on my second viewing, it's incredible how fast paced the games are. And seeing it a second time, you do pick up on those little extra bits and pieces while still enjoying what you've already seen. And what can we say about that last 6 to 8 weeks of the season? There were so
Mm.
many little things I'd probably forgotten about for the summer, and to relive Nick's injury and then Bruzzy's commotions during the finals, and to go inside the four walls to track the stories of Scotty P and Nick Dacos, Darcy Moore and Fly. It's special stuff, and I think they've given the Magpie Army exactly what they deserve
Mm.
for showing up time and time again throughout an unbelievably close final series, Luke.
Yeah, and really cool to sit in the cinema with Collingwood supporters and
Mm.
kind of we're watching these highlights of the games and different footage, and it was just like you said, you didn't know if we were going to win still, and we know what happens, but it's
Mm.
still you still. I think it was when they were showing the GWS game again. I was actually like nervous again, like how did we
My
win?
heart rate was
Yep.
going off on the
Mm.
second time as well that I watched it.
And then you get to the grand final and it's the same story and you're just like, dude, how do we win this? And yeah, so just incredible to watch. Obviously, really cool in a movie theater. I think they're bringing it out on Channel
Yeah, I think
Seven
that's coming next week.
next
Just
week.
yeah.
So that'll be really good for anyone who might have missed out. We've also got the grand final recall coming to
Tomorrow night.
Fox tomorrow night. So that'll be another good bit of footage to watch as we lead into round zero. But yeah, like you said, a bit of a tribute, fitting tribute to what was an incredible 2023.
And I know there were its critics, but I think the best part of that documentary was that we got to watch it in a cinema. How many
Mm,
times have we gone to movies in our lifetime and we've seen a really great, memorable film
mm,
come out, and to have a documentary that of a team that we love so much
mm.
just come to fruition like that was just superb. So to Luke Windsor, James Moriarty, all the Collingwood media team, outstanding job and well played. That was excellent stuff. Leads us in nicely into what's to come, of course, next week. And we got a good taste of what the Pies might bring to the table last Tuesday night when we took on Richmond at Icon Park for our practice match. Ended up getting the job done by 5 goals. Richmond pretty inaccurate in the end. 5 goals,
Bottled it.
16. They ended up kicking. So with no Lynch in their forward line, it might be a sign of things to come for that mob. But for us, some great signs all around. And I mean, I know it is just a practice match, but with it being so close to the start of the season, I'm sure the coaching staff were pretty keen to get a lot of things fine tuned and lead up to our round zero clash up against GWS. So, few little highlights for me. I want to start with Pat Lipinski, who capped off a perfect preseason, in my opinion, with another fantastic game. He was the only multiple goal kicker for the night for the Pies with 2 majors, but he had 23 touches at 73% and went with 11 score involvements and 8 marks. So, the stats look good, but it was his actual influence in games is really starting to pick up. He's getting into a lot more contested possession situations, allowing him to win the ball a lot more. And personally, and I mean, we'll get to it a little bit later, I think he might have done enough to solidify not just the starting 23, but even past the sub role that he was on that grand final day and potentially in that starting 22.
Am I right in saying he had an interrupted pre-season when he came to the
Yes,
club, or
so he had a
Mm.
shoulder injury 12 months ago that he was sort of
last year?
navigating through,
Yeah.
as we know, but a clean bill of health this preseason, which has been great.
Yeah, he's moving beautifully, and
Mm.
I think as we commented on even after the North game, he's just one of those guys as link-up players. Between him, Lockie Schultz, Bobby Hill, Bo McCreary, that ball was going to be moving very quickly through the middle of the ground. And he probably speaks to another reason why, without McStay in the side, going with a smaller outfit that isn't afraid to go down the middle, it's okay with guys like him when they're in good form. So he was exceptional, Nico. I'm glad you picked up on his preseason as a whole
Mm.
package, because now that he's got that behind him, I think he
Mm.
can have a different start to the year compared to season 2023.
Yeah, it's incredible what I guess a pre-season without any kind of injuries holding you back can do for you, and it really sets you up for a really good season, and that's what it looks like it's done for Pat Lipinski. Another name that got a few mentions across the week, Charlie Dean,
Yeah, so good to see.
throwing himself into calculations for an early selection this season,
Mm.
but again for him, a clean bill of health, finally getting himself out in the park and
Looks comfortable.
yeah, it's sort of like it feels like a bit of a mature age coming in, and he's had the experience on the list and at VFL level um, across the past few years, and now finally getting his chance at the top level.
I'm touching every bit of wood that he can get through a whole season unscathed. I thought he was excellent when he came onto the ground. In just 37% game time, he had 8 marks, 12 disposals, 5 intercept possessions. And you're right, Marcus. He looked at home. He looked like he knew exactly what the setup was going to be from a Collingwood point of view. And it seems like he's embraced the style that we've been playing at for the last 2 or so years. And got a soft spot for him personally. Got to know him a bit while I was at Williamstown. And that's, of course, where the Pies picked him up. So a great player, great person, and I'm sure it won't be long before we're seeing him putting on the black and white seniors.
I think Scotty Pendlebury might have been the last player to go Williamstown
Straight
into
in.
Collingwood, boys,
Yeah.
back from the old affiliation days. But yeah, there you go, turning of the page.
Yeah, bringing the connection in nicely too. Finn McRae was also good on limited time as well. Had 10 touches, 6 contested possessions, 6 inside 50s, and 4 clearances in 42 second half minutes. So he was certainly putting his case forward as well. A couple other highlights came from the likes of IQ and Will Hoskin Elliott, who finished with 47 disposals combined, both at pretty high efficiency too. Mason Cox really stood out with his marking, particularly against some of the tall timber at Richmond. He finished with 10 marks. 3 of those inside 50, 3 of those were contested, along with 19 hitouts and 1 goal too. So he seems to be benefiting off a really strong preseason himself, and
and
we
uh,
might say,
and absolutely nothing's changed with Big Coxie,
oh yeah,
right?
starting fights in the
Well,
last 5 seconds of practice
he had
matches.
another little fracas with one of the Richmond players earlier in the game. They
Mm.
were just pushing him around, and then this was right at the end when he got himself involved in, and it turned out for Billy Frampton kicking about 80
You
metres.
loved that goal, didn't you? You were posting it everywhere, Lukey.
It
It
was
was
just funny because it was just the game, a practice game. Bill's just launched it, and it's just bounced through, and he was so happy with himself. And Cox is getting dragged to the ground by the whole Richmond squad. So just a funny moment at the end of a practice game, and sort of a little jab at Richmond. Coxie's still in their heads even
oh
after
yeah, that
4 or 5 years after the prelims. So
yeah, it's gold. No, I think he's going to play a pretty critical role for us again in
mm,
2024. So looking forward to seeing what he can do. Nick Dacos and DeGoey were pretty strong in that first half once again, and just said, "That's enough, boys. We'll save you up for round zero." So great to see them have that impact already.
I feel like they have got the capacity to be the best duo in the
Mm.
comp when we look at midfields
mm,
across the league, Nico. I'm not sure what that ceiling looks like between them and how many votes they're going to take off one another, leaving us
mm.
saying bloody hell again at the Brownlow count. But I'm really excited by what they can produce as the real blue chips in our midfield. DeGoey I mean, he looked great at the start of last season, but this year
Mm.
he just looks even that little bit leaner, and who knows what that collective. There's so many players who like to train
Mm.
in the current squad, and I feel as if Zago's really lent into that since his big shifts over the last couple of
It's
seasons.
almost as if we lost a grand final last year. That there
Mm.
seems to be so much motivation from this squad that they want to take that extra step and not just have a great year and fall off.
And let's just sit on this for a moment because it's all talk until we get through sort of the first 7, 8 games of the year and we can get a read on what the team looks like. But why do you think we look so focused, gentlemen? Is it the fact that Fly has been able to keep the energy rolling along without letting our heads get too big? I've heard terminology like back to work, not back to back,
Mm.
when it comes to having another crack at a flag. So, what do we think it is that is keeping us looking really settled even before the season has started?
I feel like it's just the history of knowing what happens to a premiership side and knowing how quickly it can all go away. And you only have to look at Collingwood's history,
Mm,
recent history, and how quickly it all can sort of go. And obviously, Pendles and Steele are part of a lot of that. And then taking so long to get back with the
mm.
opportunity to go all the way again. So I think having those guys still there, able to give that leadership and experience down to the younger guys, but also for the younger guys coming through and just getting a taste of it and wanting to experience that again and again and again. And I think wanting to capitalize on the list that we do have at the
Mm.
moment, and the position we're currently in. So I think that's playing a fair bit into it.
Yeah, you're right. We have so much depth and so many players missed out on that premiership last year. So there's motivating factors for them to try and get into the senior squad and be in a position where they can try challenge for a flag. But you look at Craig McRae, he's had a career where he won 3 consecutive flags as a player from Brisbane. He knows what it takes to go back to back to back, as rare as that is, especially in the 18 team competition, as we know so well. So I think he's playing a massive role. And for those that have watched the documentary, we don't have to look far to see
Yeah.
the type of inspiration he gives to his players every week.
And even at Richmond, he might have been
Yep,
involved in a
VFL Premiership coach
couple of
and
flags
part of
there.
the assistant crew with the Tigers.
So it's a lot of
Mm,
positivity to
mm,
take into the mindset of the group, knowing he'll be making sure that their heads don't get too big and
mm.
stay grounded.
And I think just as a supporter, it feels so. I can only imagine what it's like for a player or being a part inside the club, but just the monkey off the shoulder or the
Mm,
monkey off the back to win that premiership. We've had the 2018, like, always Collingwood getting all that so close and not being able to win it. We obviously won 2010, but then lose 2011, and just a
yeah.
lot of heartbreaking moments as Collingwood supporters. The prelim in 2022, prelim in 2019. So just now we've won it, and a lot of that the group that we have now were a part of some of those heartbreaking moments to now go, well, we've done it now, we
Mm.
can just go for it
Mm.
again, and we don't have, I guess, that pressure and sort of Collingwood of past years coming to get us. We've done it, and now we
Yeah.
can just go out and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what these boys can do throughout the 2024 season. Anything else from this Richmond practice match that sort of caught your eye, or are we happy to quickly move along?
Oh, just the speed of the game. I
Mm.
think that there's no doubt every team would be studying Collingwood's game style, which puts even more pressure on the coaching staff to adapt and stay innovative, if you will. And it seems like Collingwood's going to go faster and more through the
Mm,
corridor and take more risks and stuff it up even more because our defense is so set a lot of the time that it allows us
Mm.
to do these types of things all throughout a match, not just when we need to save it or yeah, try and kill it. So I really am excited for our game style this year as well, Nico. It seems like the comp will get faster with their
Mm.
game styles, and we're going to be leading from the front there. So expect another season of good quality footy is what I'm trying to say. It's exciting to watch.
That's what I
mm.
like to hear. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, and I think just again we've done it in the past couple of years, but playing really well in gears and knowing when to bring it up a notch and knowing when to bring it back down. And Richmond, obviously, it's a practice match, so not going to take too much notice out of it. But Richmond obviously had a bit of early control, and then we just had
Mm.
that 20 minutes of bang, and then it was over. We put enough distance on the scoreboard, and we're able to cruise to the finish line. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that throughout the year. And I
Mm.
think for I guess probably a focus and another reason, another bit of motivation for the year ahead is we've had so many close finishes last year or in the past couple of years. Why don't we actually win some games, by 5, 6 goals?
Yeah.
Put them
And
away. Yeah.
yeah, so let's get to that level where we're actually, not even being questioned that we're the best in it. So I think that's another level of motivation for the year ahead.
Just a side note, from what you saw from Richmond, are they a finals team in 2024?
Well, I just did my ladder prediction. I had them 17th, I think. I was just, you got to change some teams up. You can't have the same
Yeah,
ladder
yeah,
as the
yeah,
year
yeah.
before. But
That's
no,
gold.
I don't think they'll be. They'll probably, for me, sit from 12 to 16.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
All I could notice in the practice matches, they forgot the stripe on their jumper,
Yeah.
Lukey. So I don't know if that means you can play finals.
They're falling apart, Marcus. They're falling apart. Certainly not a final side for me. Let's move on to Ask Pies Nation as before we wrap up the preseason talk. Now, of course, last week on our first episode back for season 6, we gave our preseason predictions in terms of what we felt would happen throughout the 2024 campaign, and that included a ladder position, Copeland Trophy winner, leading goal kicker, who it's a big year for, in our record after the first 5 games. So we thought we'd give the fans a crack. And maybe that's just something we can come back to at the end of the year. And if someone's gotten all 5 pretty much spot on, then there
Get them
might
on the
be a
pod.
little bit something that we can do for them. So we put it to the fans, Lukey. Lots of great responses. So be sure to follow us Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And
Race caller.
we're gonna be bigger.
Worldwide.
It's going to be bigger and better this year. So that is for sure. Be sure to be following on all our pages. We've got some exciting stuff coming for you over the next week or so. So stay tuned. But for now, Ask Pies Nation, Luke, take it away.
So we've got Thorlin. He's got ladder with finishing first with 20 wins and 3 losses. So that'll be
Jeez.
Nice.
a really good year. Copeland de Goey.
Yep.
Leading goal kicker Schultz. Big year it
Ooh.
is for Bobby Hill.
Ooh.
Record after 5 will be 4-1.
Yep.
Premiers Big Yes and Brownlow and Norm, Whisper and de Goey. Can't
Oof.
wait for the pod to be back, fellas.
Sorry, I have to jump in. If it was a Bobby Year got traded and won the Norm Smith at the Pies last season, so
So-
what's he going to do
Well,
next
so
year?
Yeah.
a big year. Yeah.
Could it be? Are we talking Copeland All Australian?
5-year deal,
selections?
1
Yeah,
million
I
a
don't know.
year.
Does he kick 100 goals this year?
I'm
Um,
excited. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
and
if
he
that
looks
all
very
comes to
good.
fruition, then
24.
we're laughing.
So we've got Ethanel, ladder position second. Copeland, Nick Dacos, Bobby for the Norm again.
The Norm.
Norm for the Bobby.
Norm for the Bobby.
Yeah.
Leading goal kicker, you mean?
I'm trying to get these answers correct because they've given them in a different way here. Maybe this big year for Lipper and Charlie Dean.
Yep.
And record after 5 will be 4-1.
I'm keen to see, and I'm sure you'll go through them anyway. If anyone's got us 5-0 start of the year, that would be unreal. So
It's just like
Without a doubt.
yeah, I'm
just-
sure. I'm sure there's something.
Next
Maybe
one.
we're just being too nice. Yep.
Keyless Cano, ladder position second. Copeland, Jordan de Goey, leading goal kicker Lockie Schultz. It's a big year for Finley McRae, and the
Mm.
record after 5 games, 4 wins and the 1 loss to Brisbane.
Yeah, they're going with the Brisbane loss. All right. Yeah, fair enough.
Eliza Camilleri, ladder position second. Copeland de Goey, leading goal kicker Brody Myercheck. It's a big year for Leggy or Lipper,
Mhm.
and the record after 5, 2-3.
2 and 3. Gee, that's a bit harsh.
Controversial.
That is. I don't know if we'd be smiling too much.
Didn't
if
think to
we-
just leave that one to the side,
Yeah.
Lukey.
Well,
start the year
I'm trying to
2-3.
not
Bad
have
omen.
everyone the same, but 2-3. So that would, you could say, you could not easily, but we could lose to the Giants, could lose to Sydney,
And Brisbane. You
you
reckon
could
they're
lose to
3?
Brisbane, and then what? So
St
we'd beat the
Kilda would be
Saints
round 2,
and beat Saints and beat
and
who?
then Hawks
Yeah,
the last
so
one on
that-
gather round. That's
It wouldn't be ideal.
probably almost worst case scenario, really, if you think about it. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Because Sydney, I think they'll be a really strong contender this year, so that's not going to be
Yeah,
easy.
but a lot of injuries at Sydney at the moment.
Yes,
Oh,
and
they're suffering a little bit.
unfortunately, we won't get to see Taylor in
Mm.
round 1, or is it? Yeah, round 1. I'm
Yes,
confusing
round
myself
one.
there. Round 1. Because he will miss 4 to 6 weeks, I think it is now.
Yeah,
So
so-
unfortunate for Tay.
Interesting though, big year for Oleg Markov. Obviously, was able to keep his ground in 23, and was able to play in a premiership in the back line with a lot of movement there, with no Murph, of course. I wonder how he can continue to keep that spot, or if it's up for jeopardy as much as it maybe was 12 months ago.
His spot over Noble,
Mm.
I think he's doing everything that he can to
Mm.
maintain it, quite frankly. Johnny Noble's probably got more work in front of him to fill one of those backline spots than Oleg, and I
Yeah.
think it's just down to our game style. He just suits it that little bit more, taking nothing away from Nobes. He's been outstanding for a long time now, but yeah, it'll be super interesting. Another reason it's a big year for Markov too is that he'll become a dad for the first
Yeah,
time this
right.
season.
That's
so
it.
I'm not sure if that's where they were going
Nah,
there,
that's-
Lukey, but I'm just
Very
going to
big
throw
year.
that into the mix.
In anyone's sense, it's a very big year.
David Carlino, ladder position 3. Copeland, Nick Dacos, leading goal kicker Ash Johnson. Big year for Finley, and after 5 games, 4-1. Go Pies, and can't wait for the flag unfurling as coming down from the Gold Coast.
Oh, beautiful. That's what we like to see. Actually, just a side note, did you see the tickets for that round 1 game have pretty much not sold out completely, of course,
The
but
Swans won.
yeah, quite a bit of interest, obviously,
I-
with it being a flag unfurling.
Yeah, I predicted a few weeks ago that or just before tickets were about to go out, I was saying to a few people that it'll get 80,000 plus.
Mm,
Collingwood,
Massive.
first game back in Melbourne after a premiership, plus Sydney, South Melbourne. They've
Yeah,
got a
true,
big
true,
fan base
true.
here in Victoria, and a lot will travel. But also, yeah, because it feels like it is the first game of the year, people will just go.
Mm.
So it'll get 80,000 plus.
Easy.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
Friday night. That's why we should be playing it this weekend, not next weekend.
Yeah, fair enough. Just imagine it was a Victorian club we were playing.
Yeah.
Unreal.
The Surge. He's got his
Oh,
predictions. We
back for
couldn't,
another
First
year.
time back.
we couldn't
Great
have
to hear.
predictions about
On
the
your
Surge. He's got us finishing 4th.
4th. Okay.
Copeland, Jordan de Goey.
Yep.
leading goal kicker Bobby Hill.
Yep.
It's a big year for Finley McRae,
Yep.
and 3-2
He's
after
gone
5.
3-2. So we're being pretty conservative with our records.
What's that about? Is that because we have had less time on the track than other clubs to prepare?
Maybe.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
I can't put
There'd
my
be a
finger
little
on
bit
it.
to that. I think
It's
we're.
also, we play Brisbane in that first 5, and
Mhm.
these percentages of the loser of the grand final beating the Premier, it's normally the loser that gets up in that first
Oh, is that a stat?
encounter back.
Well done.
Don't quote me
I'll-
on that, but I'm sure that's pretty accurate.
While we're here, I'll give you a better one. I heard on Fox last week that the loser of the grand final
Mhm.
in the last 10 years has not made the granny the following year.
Yeah.
And there's a really low percentage for even making the prelim.
Mm.
Wow.
So
All right.
Brisbane for me is still a massive threat, but
Mm.
yeah,
Big
we
call.
got him. We got him when we needed to.
Well, 3 of our first 5 are interstate. So there's a little bit
Mm.
of a factor into that, I guess.
True.
Including back-to-back interstate. We go from Brisbane at the Gabba straight to Gather
We love to
rounds.
travel, Nico.
I know, absolutely. It's our
You
favourite.
go? Are you traveling?
No, not for this game.
And
No, probably not.
the GWS game as well for the round 0, because that felt like they lost a grand final. The odds on them probably getting us this week are pretty high. I reckon that it's a bigger game for them than it is.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
us.
for sure.
To be fair, I don't think any of us picked 5-0 last week, did we?
Nah,
No.
No,
it's actually a really tough opening
Yeah.
5 rounds.
as it should be.
Yeah.
We're reigning premiers,
Um,
but yeah, we'll see how we go.
If we are 5-0, we're doing pretty well then.
Oh, that's it. We're done. Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Ben Tate, obvious pick, but Nick Dacos for the Copeland. Hard to go past Checkers for the goals. Big year for Reef and the Shark to try and cement their place in the best 23. Record of 4-1.
Yeah, Reef had a decent practice match, I think, against Richmond. So he's definitely going to be putting his name up for a little bit. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. I think one of us had Reef as our big year 4 potentially. So yeah, a bit to go.
Blair Jensen, ladder position 3. Copeland, Josh Dacos, leading goal kicker Lockie Schultz. It's a big year for Finn, and the record after the first 5 games, 3-2.
Yeah, right. So
Interesting call on Josh. I mean, theoretically, he's still in the peak of his powers, but so's his younger brother, and he's only 21. So that'll be a
was that
fascinating
for
count.
Copeland? Was it?
Yes.
Only the good people tip Josh Dacos for Copeland trophies, isn't that right, Marcus?
Roughie, he was a roughie.
And I'll finish with Michael Black, ladder position 2nd. Copeland, Nick Dacos, leading goal kicker Brody Myercheck. It's a big year for Kruger, out of contract and needs both to begin playing regular AFL games and having a real impact to stay on the list. Record after 5, 4-1.
I was about to bring that name up, and I forgot to mention it in the practice match because he played VFL that day, Nathan Kruger, and injured himself. He's out for at least 6 weeks, I think, at the moment, Nathan
Is
Kruger.
that 3 years in a row?
That would be, a long-term injury of some sorts for the 3rd consecutive
He
year.
might just be one of those guys, unfortunately, that
Yep.
finds a way just before. Because when he played, was it round 2 against Port, where he did an injury last season? He went up
Oh,
for a hanger, and I feel like
it could have been that game. I'll have a
I
look.
think it was that game.
it doesn't matter, Nico.
Yeah.
Don't. But all I'm trying to say
It's
is he hasn't
very-
had a very good run
Yeah, no.
No,
at
he
it
hasn't.
since he came to the Pies. So fingers crossed.
Bit of a shame because
It's not too
he
bad.
was the one I said that he needed a big year for too. You saw during the intra club how strong his marking was. I mean, he's always capable. When we chatted to Scott Selwood at the start of 2022, he singled him out straight away from his time at Geelong. Someone that can really take this forward group by storm. McRae picked him for a prelim despite having not much match fitness in 2023. So the talent's certainly there, but
Staying on the
unfortunately,
track.
with such a with such strong depth in our team as of now, missing 6-7 weeks to start the year is going to be pretty hard to see him coming back into that senior squad.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, especially when you got Ash and you got Reef that are trying to make their marks is in the key forward stakes. So, yeah, not too sure what to make of Nathan Kruger, and he's out of contract at the end of this year. So, fingers crossed he can get back, but yeah, not entirely sure. Unfortunately, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we've got a big preview coming up for this GWS clash. So, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Be sure to keep following us on all our socials: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify for podcasts, TikTok, absolutely everywhere. We're flying, so keep going. Let's move on to our GWS preview for our big round zero clash this Saturday night at Giants Stadium. It's the fourth game of the opening round. We've got some interesting clashes leading up to that game, I must say. I'm looking forward to a couple of them, particularly seeing Carlton get belted again by Brisbane. That should be fun. But for the Giants, well, I think they're going to be coming with a bit of a vengeance after the preliminary final last year, them going down by 1 point to us, of course. So, pretty keen to see what they're going to bring to the table. They've said themselves that it's a perfect opportunity for them to come back at us, which, yeah, that's the mindset you can have. But we got the silverware at the end of the day, so that's all well and good. But um, with GWS as a whole leading into 2024, there's been a lot of similarities thrown around about our 2023 season in terms of what GWS might bring to the table
Mm,
this year. Obviously, getting a new coach in Adam Kingsley last year, rising from a pretty
yeah,
disappointing
wow.
2022 campaign all the way to a preliminary final performance. So they'll be expected to be right up there again, I'm sure, this year. What do we make of GWS and where do you predict them to sit by September?
I think they're a top four side, legitimately. That's such a good point in terms of they lost by a point
Mm,
in a prelim, and we did too after recruiting a coach from Richmond
yep.
because Kingsley
Mm,
was there as well. So they're all part of that next wave of like the
Mm,
dimmer disciples, if you will, Fly and Kingsley, etc. So I think that they are an absolute force to be reckoned with, and not just saying that off the back of their form last year. It was more so with how they handled themselves against 95,000
mm,
Collingwood supporters in
mm.
one of the craziest games you'll ever go to. When you looked at how little orange there was in the crowd, it was like, yeah, I kept seeing the MCC marshals and they were orange, and I thought they were the only GWS fans in my part of the ground, Lukey. So, look, Tom Green, Finn Callahan, Aaron Cadman, like they've got some serious young talent to go with their pretty established players such as Lockie Whitfield, Steve Canelio, even Harry Himmelberg's been
mm.
around for a while now. So look, I think if we can get on top in the ruck and get first access to the pill, we go a long way to winning forward half, and we can definitely play our game style off that. But if we can't get on top in the middle, they showed us how incredible they are at wrestling back a game, and who knows what happens.
You're spot on about the midfield, Marcus. We had 18 more clearances than GWS in that preliminary final, and to only get them by a point
Mm.
says a lot about the mantra that the Giants bring to the table. So yes, we have to get to the ball first, but we're going to have to do it a lot more than one or two more times than the Giants if we're to get a result this Saturday. We also had 7 more intercepts in that unbelievable final term, so that might be a key too. Toby Green, Luke, we know that he's going to be around and
Mm.
someone we're going to have to try and stop. Nearly won the game off his own boot for GWS in that premium last year with that
That snap he
unbelievable
almost
snap
kicked was
Well,
from the
I was
boundary.
just thinking about
ridiculous.
that when we seen that in the documentary again. It
Yeah.
was like everyone was like, and it. I don't know. Right
He's a
at that
freak.
moment in like watching it live, it didn't feel like a big moment, but
Mm,
in every time I've watched the last quarter since seeing it
Oh
live,
my
it
god.
has been like, oh my god, that was literally going
yeah.
through for a goal. Like that's
Look where
the
he snapped it and got pushed as he kicked it
Oh,
as
I
well.
know.
It's
yeah,
like,
and it was just
how?
thank
He's a
Thank you,
God.
weapon.
Steele.
Thank God. So normally that goes against us. But no, yeah, Toby, he's going to be back bigger and better than ever. And this Giant outfit, I've got them to finish second
Yeah, right.
behind us, only because I'm not being biased and Collingwood has to finish first. But no, they're going to be a scary, scary outfit. And I guess for them, finishing last year really well in some of the best form they played all year, and then they've looked really supreme in the preseason. They smashed the Gold Coast
Mm.
last week in their practice game, and yeah, just in the same boat as us the year before, hurting and reeling, and coming back with a vengeance to take on the competition.
Are we getting another chapter of the Toby Green, Braden Maynard rivalry
I
this
think so.
weekend? Don't see anyone else
Yeah.
going to him.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I think so.
May it live on.
You mentioned Cadman before. I think he's going to be a big key for GWS this year. This is going to be sort of the year he really steps
Mm,
up and shows everyone why he was that number one pick a
mm.
few years ago for GWS. So really keen to see how that one plays out. That midfield battle is going to be so spicy. I'm really excited to see how we play that one out. In terms of us and what we're going to bring to the table, are we all prepared to give a prediction of what our first side of the year might look like from the grand final team last year?
Just in terms of potential ins and
Just ins
outs.
and outs. I can go first, so you guys have a bit more time to
Yeah.
think about it. So
Yep.
I did some research on this from. So this is from the grand final team, of course. We did win the premiership, if anyone was wondering. So, um, so the changes I've made to this team. Obviously, Ginnivan's off to the Hawks, and I don't think Nathan Murphy's going to get up. So they're probably going to be the two that miss from that team. I've promoted Lipinski into the starting 22. He was a sub in that grand final.
Yep.
I've
Tick.
chucked him straight into the bench. My other two inclusions are Ash Johnson. For me, he gets full forward, and I'm really keen to give him the first 5 or 6 weeks of the year to see what potential he can show. But I'll tell you what, if he doesn't perform in that first month or so, I think he might be quickly wheeled out of that team for the time being. I've also put Finn McRae in this team. He has to play round zero, in my opinion. There has to be a way they squeeze him into this side. So, in my opinion, the way that happens is we put Billy Frampton. He stays in this team for me, and we put him at full back. That way, that helps cover that spot. That allows having McRae as the sub is where I'm going to
Oh, we
start him
still
at
got the
this point.
sub,
Yeah, yeah, we still got. Oh,
or is it
or was
just
it
a
5 on the
five-man
bench? Is
bench?
that right? Oh,
Yeah, I
correct.
feel
Oh, you might be right
I
on that.
feel
I
like
can't. Not
I'm
100%
fully not
sure.
across it, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they got rid of the sub and it's just a five-man
could
bench
be.
now.
If that's a look, regardless whether it is McRae's in the 23, so I think
Yeah,
he gets that spot. If there is a sub role, then he's the sub for me. If not, then great. He stays in that 5. So that's the team I run with, and I think that coming off what we saw in the preseason is the best team that we're putting on paper, with no Murph, of course, and no McStay in that side either. So that's where I lean towards. Do you agree with Johnson McRae playing round zero?
I'd love for Johnson to be in there. McRae is probably touch and go if they want to promote him straight off, then I'm happy for that as well. But I think Ash, I 100% agree with what you're saying. He needs to play the early rounds. He's got the nod ahead of Reef at the moment.
Yep.
If it's between them two, Ash gets first look, and if he sort of struggles in that first 4 to 6 weeks, and Reef's killing it in the twos, then I guess he squeezes
Mhm.
his way back in. But I'm pretty happy with what you said. I'm just looking at the team that the AFL website put out and trying to work out
From last year.
no, their prediction for
Oh,
this week, and I'm just trying to work out who they've put in that you might have missed.
yeah. Okay, I didn't even realize that they've done their round one
Because obviously
predictions.
Schultz is in,
Yeah.
so say let's
Oh,
just
Schultz. I forgot
that's
Schultz.
who.
I
Yeah,
forgot Schultz.
it was just
Wow.
he's just like one of those obvious ones
Wow.
that's you think is in there, but you forget that he wasn't here last year.
That
Yeah.
is
So
really poor from me, I
so
must
Schultz
say.
in for Ginnivan.
Yeah. No, no. See,
Now that throws your
that does a little bit.
Schultz or Lipinski
Yeah. Well, that's sort of the question you have to ask.
positionally, but I think you
Well,
have to
Schultz,
play those
you've
two
got to play.
over.
You've
well,
got
that's
to.
where I think McRae might just miss out.
That might be where
Um,
McRae
So
misses out,
Schultz in for
unfortunately.
Ginnivan.
Yeah. So
Ash comes in for Murphy,
and you
Frampton to
put Frampton in
fullback,
the back.
and then
You got
unfortunately,
yeah, yeah. Geez,
So I
okay. I knew
reckon
there was someone missing. Thanks for picking it up, Luke.
And you said Lipinski
Yeah, yeah,
promoted him,
yeah,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
come
nah,
yeah.
I'm on board. I think the other one alongside Finn that is incredibly stiff is Charlie Dean.
Mm.
He
Mm.
definitely doesn't need to be rushed. He's young and he's
Yeah, yeah,
still
yeah.
adjusting to life at AFL level and being fit to be up for consideration. But what another sort of story in Billy Frampton.
Mm.
He sort of tried and whatnot at Port and then
Mm.
also at Adelaide and then comes across and now he's also
Yeah.
a premiership player. And I mean, he's probably still only played 35 games of footy, but
Mm.
all of a sudden he's a pretty important guy in our
Mm.
side because we know the job he did on Harris Andrews on the biggest day of the year. So
Yeah.
I can't see him coming out, but at the start of last season, it was kind of like, oh yeah,
Mm.
Frampton, yeah,
Mm.
yes, no, maybe waiting, but all of a sudden, who else have we got back there?
Yeah.
It's
That's
Murph's
exactly right.
out, so you got to play him.
Geez, I'm filthy. I miss Schultz. I hope he comes and kicks 6, and now then I won't forget that he's going to be in this team. But
And you just can't take anyone else
nah,
out now.
nah. Unfortunately, yeah, for Finn, that might mean he's the 24th man
Mm.
of that team for the time being. And I don't think you can move any of the other magnets from grand final day. I don't think we've missed anybody else. Obviously, John Noble, as you mentioned before, Marcus has got a bit of work to find
Bit of work.
himself back into this team.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that overall, Markov is just going to probably have to get injured for Noble to force his way in through the early stages of the season, unless it's based on form. And really, as much of it's such a shame that Murph's not up for selection, but I still feel supremely confident in that back six
Mm.
to function as I think they call it, a system defense rather than
Mm.
personnel. So whoever comes in will know their job, and I hope that Charlie Dean doesn't have to wait too long before he gets his
Yeah.
crack.
I'm sure he won't. I reckon there's going to be situations where his role will come in and we'll be playing it perfectly. So excited to see what him and the entire Pies group can bring to the table. Now let's get your tips, boys. How do we see this game playing out at Giant Stadium Saturday night?
You go, Marcus. I want to follow.
I am sick of tipping Collingwood by a single point margin,
Yeah, we're due for a big
I
margin,
don't know
aren't we?
if this is the
but
game
I'm
for
going to
big
tip
win.
them. I'm going to tip the Pies by 3 points.
Yeah, you go to 3 points. Nice. Luke?
Pies by 9.
Nine.
It'll be pretty similar. It won't be similar, I guess, to the prelim. I think this will be a much higher scoring game.
Mhm.
Being early in the year, it'll be a lot more offense. So yeah, end to end stuff. Pies by 9.
9.
In a shootout.
I'll go 4. So there goes our theory of wanting a big margin. But you're right. I just don't see this game being that way. The Giants are going to throw absolutely everything at us again, and we'll see how we're feeling and how strong our preseason was by what the Giants do deliver in round 0. Now, also, guess the crowd will be back again in
Yes.
2024. Our most popular segment of the show is returning, and it does start this Saturday. So keep an eye out on our socials.
And just a bit of a tip: there's only standing room left at the Giant
Right.
Stadium at the moment, so
So
it's
we
going to be pretty full.
Ooh, so this is going to be our sixth season of
Mm.
the Pies Nation podcast. Since we've been running this since maybe 2021 or
Mm.
maybe the start of 2022.
Guess the crowd.
Not one person is yet to
Mm.
guess the crowd perfectly. We've had very close people,
2
2 and 3
Yeah, I
maybe.
don't think anyone's been one off yet.
Yeah. So this is the challenge. Can we get somebody? And we wouldn't have done it for grand final day because that was obviously a full
Yeah.
house, so that's different. But can we get somebody that predicts the crowd spot on? And they'll be sitting over there in that chair right there.
They'll get to
joining
come
us.
in, will they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the plan. So keep an eye out for Luke's post. He'll be doing it a couple of days out to the game. It's also going to be the tip post that you do usually. So
They
one
run,
of your knows.
coincide with each other.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
another exciting year of predictions and
Yes.
for match results and
Yes.
I guess the crowd as well.
And if you are lucky enough to end up on the blower to us because you were successful,
Mhm.
new questions this season.
Oh,
as
there's
well,
some. Yeah,
Nico.
I think we got.
I think we need to change them up,
got some
quite
good
frankly.
ideas. We got some good ideas. Don't worry, we won't run with the same stuff. And speaking of predictions, well, we've got to finish with this, boys. What's our Monday headline? We've got to get
Monday
headlines
headline,
back.
I'm
Well,
glad that's
Sunday,
back.
I guess, in this perspective because it's a Saturday night game. But what are we going with?
Flyers flag pies are back with a giant bang.
Whoa.
That I
Giant bang.
completely
Wow,
just made that up.
the Herald
Poetic.
Sun has just taken what
Poetic.
you've just said there. Yes, Max.
Oh, okay. Monday headline. Round 0 becomes ground zero for the Giants in season
Ooh.
2024. Pies by 3.
Wow, I like that. Schultz proves Nico wrong, kicks 5. Wins the game off his own.
Nico
boot.
remembers Schultz. Yeah.
It's etched in my memory from that. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe we need to get Lockie on so that I will absolutely remember when he's sitting right there. No, I hope he has a great game. I've no doubt he'll be playing. And I'm really excited to see the Pies in their gold logos out on Giant Stadium. So
Love that Guernsey we wore
Oh,
against the
the
Tigers
swoop,
too, by the
yeah.
way.
Unreal.
Black on white.
I hope that features a lot more.
Yeah, they're
this
trying
year.
to.
Big
A lot
fan.
of people pushing to get it as part of the home and away kit. At
Yeah.
least once or twice a year, which
Can't see why not.
yeah, definitely for some certain
Home
clash,
games.
some certain clashes where we're clashing a little bit. We roll the full blackout almost against Richmond in the yellow.
Yeah.
Looked
'cause-
really. Bobby Hill looked very nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just not against Port. We want to make sure that the stripes are ours against Port. So that's the main one. All right. Well, that's enough for this week's episode, boys. Thanks for coming on, Luke and Marcus.
Great to be back.
It
Yeah,
is.
fantastic. Back here, not on Zoom. Can't
Yeah.
do the Zooms.
Yeah, you're not losing us every 5 seconds. It's great. Well, until next week, I've been your host, Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening or watching to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold.